Hey, y'all. So, welcome to Ascension and Protocol's Buddy Read with James A. Hunter and his narrator, Steve Campbell. So, just got to wait for my co host, and then we'll invite our. There we go. We've got Steve. There we go. Invite. There we go. There's one of them. Ha ha. Okay. Now we just gotta grab James. There he is. Okay. Hey, James.
Hey guys, let me see if I can get my camera on here.
It's okay. Well, welcome to the buddy read between Wilkie's World Wanderings and Ascension Protocol. We have
Hey
our
guys.
guests,
Hey.
James Hunter and Steve Campbell. Kristen, it's all yours.
Thanks, Wilkie. So I'm Kristen. I'm one of the admins for Ascension Protocol, and I am so super excited to be here with Wilkie and James and Steve to talk about Discount Dan. I have been talking about this book all week, and everyone's looking at me like I'm crazy. It was our buddy read for the month, and Don in my hat. There you go, Wilkie. Super excited to talk to you guys about the book. So I have a very chaotic TikTok here with K-pop and books and interview authors for fun. And I'm a teacher by day, so I can't wait to talk about chapter 35.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna have to go look up chapter 35. I don't even know what's this is one of the hard things when you write books relatively quickly is that you kind of like forget things. So like I'm elbow deep in book 4, so I'm like, what was in chapter 35? I can't remember.
But chapter 35 is the school zone.
Oh, okay, all right, yes, absolutely.
Quickly, I want to say hi to Ginger and Atticus who are popping into this. Say hello.
So glad you're here, Ginger.
Now we got Derek up in here. That's awesome. And Kristen, it is so nice to finally meet you. I feel like maybe we've exchanged some messages. I can't remember, but it's
we
nice
have.
to meet you.
It is nice to meet you too. Yeah. Are you going to be at Lit RPG Con?
Yes, you can.
Then we can meet in person there. Awesome. I am super stoked. It's my first time going. So
have you done a lot of cons before, or is this like your first con?
This is my first I've done like Comic-Con and like those, but my first like real book con. So I'm stoked, and I'm going to cosplay for this one too. So, and I'm going with no kids, so it's going to be a fun weekend for me.
Oh yeah, you're in for a good time.
Yeah.
You're in for a good time for sure.
I cannot wait.
This is the one con that we do bring our kids to. My wife and I are coming out because she helps me run. So for those who don't know, I write, obviously I've written a bunch of books, but we also run a publishing company called Shadow Alley, and we publish predominantly lit RPG and progression fantasy. And so she always comes out and helps me run the booth. But most of the cons we don't bring the kids to because it's too chaotic and it's just too crazy. But the lit RPG con, like the lit RPG community is so amazing. And so every time we were there last year, and it was fantastic, and it really felt like just a big extended family reunion because I know all of these people, right? A lot of these authors, we sort of came up writing lit RPG together, and have been doing it for years and like working con for years. So a lot of these folks are like my really good friends, and a lot of these readers are people that I really know and trust. So it's the one con where I'm like, yeah, my kids can be here, so it's good.
Yeah, I'm super excited because this community is like so welcoming. Like I found Ascension Protocol and like dove right in and have had a blast getting to know everybody. So I'm excited because it's already like family, and I haven't even met all of you yet. So I love that. That's my jam. So, and my kids are older, but they don't read lit RPG. My son is 26 and my daughter's 13, and she's like, whatever. It's all about the romance, And no. She got to come to the back rooms.
before we continue, we have to say, because we already love James, we love him with all our heart. That will never change. Steve, if you have to jump in, please jump in. We love you with all of our soul. Like you brought Croc and Dan to life.
Agreed.
So please don't hold back. We love you with all our hearts.
Yeah.
While we're gushing on Steve real quick, I just have to say, Steve is seriously like the greatest narrator I ever could have asked for this series.
Absolutely.
Like he has gone above and beyond. I've written a lot of books. I'm closing in on 50 now, and I've worked with a lot of narrators and a lot of really talented narrators. But the level of commitment and like care that Steve has put into these books is unmatched across any narrator that I've worked with, either on my books or any of the Shadow Alley books. Like he cares so much about these characters and about getting the story right, and he does so many takes, and he worries about just the little things because he wants to nail it. And I am just so like eternally grateful for Steve and all of the effort and just like soul that he pours into his performance in these books. Makes him so good.
That's pretty right.
Over here, my goodness, I'm going too red. This series definitely is special. It's been an amazing privilege to get to work on it. I was excited about this series when James first talked to me about it back in is it 2023?
Yeah, it's been a while. It was a while in the making for sure.
And I've said this before, but we were at Dragon Con and we were just hanging out in the Westin Lounge or whatever, and just chatting or whatever. And I was kind of standing beside him, so we were kind of talking back and forth. And then all of a sudden he turns to me and he just stops and he gives me this look, and I'm like, "Uh-oh, what's coming?" And he says, "You're funny." And I was like, "Thank you. You don't have to look so surprised." He's like, "No, you're actually really funny." And I was like, "Thanks." He's like, "I have this book series that I've been thinking about. Maybe we should look at that." And that was kind of the start of this. And when he told me about the idea and the concept of what he was going for, I was like, "Oh, damn. I really like that idea. I think this could be a lot of fun." And so I was excited about it. And then he said, "Hey, I think I'm going to narrate my series. What do you think about that? Do you want to listen to a bit of it?" And I was like, a part of me was going, "Oh, well, that's really awesome. I'm excited for you." And another part of me was like, "Oh, I've just died. He stabbed me in the heart. No, you're going to do it on your own." But he sent it to me, and I genuinely am excited for him and the idea, because he introduced me to Katie Cross there, and it was really amazing. And she's super talented and does like a book a month and narrates it at the same time, all this stuff. And he's like, "I'm intrigued by this." And I'm like, "Yeah, this is really cool." So I wanted to try and help him out as much as I could with what he was doing.
You did help me out way more than I deserved.
But I was just excited to be part of the process, even when I was like, I'm not going to be part of the process. It's not going to come. And so even still, I was excited to get to work on it, just in the background of helping James figure out how to make it work for himself. So then a few months later, when he was like, "Hey, so I'm thinking maybe this isn't going to work out for me, but if it's not going to be me, I want it to be you." And I'm like, "We're back on, baby!" Yeah, yes.
So the full story behind it is that I did talk to Katie Cross, who I love to death. She's amazing. She writes young adult fantasy. She's prolific. She's awesome. You should go follow her and support her. But yeah, Steve's right. She like writes a book a month. She narrates it all herself. She sells it direct, and she was telling me about this, and I was like, "Yeah, this is I love reading stories to my kids. This sounds fun. I want to give it a shot." And so when I was originally writing Discount Dan, I was writing it for myself in mind, and I did narrate a bunch of chapters. And Steve walked me through. He was so patient and so generous with his time. But then Audible Studios approached me. So this series was not produced through ACX, which is how we normally produce our books. Audible Studios came to me and they're like, "Hey, we want to work with you." And Audible Studios is the production arm of Audible. So like obviously we sell our books through Audible, so that's the distribution side, but Audible Studios is the actual is the production side of Audible. And and it's very much a don't call us, we'll call you type situation. Like there's not a way to get your foot like if the golden finger reaches down and touches you, you are chosen, right? And so they reached out and they're like, hey,
the claw.
that's the claw, right? It was that, right? And so they're like, hey, we want to work with you. We want your next series, and we want it like right now. And I was like, oh, well, I have this series that I'm working on, and I gave them the pitch. Book 1 was done, and they're like, yeah, that one. We'll take that one. And so I was like, hey, so I've been narrating it, and I have like the first like 20 chapters done. And our Jeff, our rep, was like, well, I guess we can listen to it. So they had me send over the first couple chapters, and Jeff came back and he was like, great job, champ. You really tried. But I think for this one, we'd prefer to go with a more tested, seasoned narrator. And I was like, yeah, okay. And I was like, well, if it can't be me, there's only one other guy that could possibly be, and it's got to be Steve Campbell. So I was like, I made them build it into the contract because originally the way it works with Audible Studios is they're like, hey, we have narrator selection. You can recommend 3 narrators. We don't have to take any of your selections, and we can pick whoever we want. And I was like, yeah, okay, but it's got to be this guy, assuming he's willing to work on it. And so they wrote it into the contract that it would be Steve. So that was a hill I was willing to fight on. So
good.
So we got Steve, and it was the greatest choice.
Yeah, yes. It's a blast. I've been alternating between the Kindle version, the book version, and the audio. And I love the syncing on it because I'll be like, wait a minute, I need to hear Steve read that part. Hold on, I need to go back and reread that in the book. Wait a minute, I need to go back to my Kindle and pin it. Because, my book is signed, so I don't want to carry it out of the house very often.
Yes.
It's one of those things. It's got, the precious book thing when I do have to take it out because I took it in my bag and it has a little bend in the corner and I'm like, nope, I'm going to have to get a new one at Can I write in this one? No, it's signed. It's one of those things. But, Steve, you did a fantastic job on it.
Cover for that.
Seriously, it's got a boo-boo right here,
We'll get you another one at Lit RPG Con, I promise. So if you want to mark that one all up, you mark it up.
Oh, thank you. I'm going to take you up on that because I will mark it up. And, I'm a teacher and I write in my teacher books and my kids are like, what are you doing? And I'm like, you can't be afraid to annotate and mark it up. But when it's signed, that's a whole other beast. I even was afraid to wear my crown because it's signed too. And I'm like,
yeah, there's a reason why.
All the things. We'll have all the things. So
I know.
Don't worry about that. So you said you're a teacher.
I am.
What grades do you teach? And what subject or
I teach ELA and social studies for 4th grade. So they're 9 and 10.
My son
not
is in 4th
a book
grade.
for them. Oh,
that is a challenging age range to teach.
It is more than challenging with 7 weeks of school left. Actually, 6 now. I looked at them today and I was like, I'm out. I'm out. Can it be Friday? And we had standardized testing today. And I'm like, yeah, no. And I got my Kindle because I'm reading when they're reading. And they're like, what you reading? And I'm like, no.
Nothing.
No, I went back to read the whole, cuss word section because I love the word shit stick.
Yes.
No. You can't look at Miss Schoonover's Kindle. No. Go back to your silent reading over there. We're just trying to survive at this point.
Just make it through to the end. So funny story about, I have not let my kids, so I have a 9-year-old who's who just turned 10. So I have a 10-year-old and a 12-year-old. And 10-year-olds in 4th grade, my daughter's in 6th grade. And I have not let them read any of my books and probably not. And I have books that are much more tame, like VGO is much more tame, and my daughter's almost old enough to read it, maybe.
Yeah.
But these ones, I'm like, nah, you need to be an adult. You need to have moved out of the house before you read these books. But
yeah.
I had a guy on Reddit, who is there's a Discount Dan post, and this guy commented, and he had it. I had not made the post. It was just about Discount Dan, and he was talking about oh man, I can't wait to get these. My son and I have been reading through them and really bonding over them. I was assuming like, oh, his son's like older or whatever, and he's like,
right.
and someone had posted about like the storefront, and then he was like, oh, as soon as I get my next paycheck, I'm going to get it so me and my son can read through the physical copy. So I messaged him and I was like, hey, dude, that is so awesome. You and your son connecting over books. I'm going to send you copies for free. Just give me a shipping address. And he was like, oh, thank you so much. And I was like, how old is your son? And he's like, 11. And I'm like, oh, that is that is an age that a child can be. And he was like, yeah, I know they're not like totally appropriate, but he loves them so much, and I love them, and we're connecting. So I actually got a letter today, again, an 11-year-old, but it takes all kinds, and I just love the kids reading. But I got a letter today in the mail. This is fan art from the 11-year-old.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Dan and Croc, and this is the HOA, this giant obelisk over here from book 2.
That's awesome.
That's
awesome.
So, like, that's so sweet. Again, I would never, ever let my kids read these books. But
so my daughter's 13, and I've pretty much told her, you can read whatever you want, but we have to talk about it. And when I talk about these lit RPG books, she's like, no, I want nothing to do with that. And I'll be laughing. And I just walked out into the living room, and she looked at me in this, and she's like, oh my God, you're going live like that? She turned around and walked away. I'm like, you just don't get it, kid. You don't get it. So I don't have to worry about her reading it. And I don't need her getting the cuss words because they're great. She would totally be in the car telling me those. Like some of the stuff that she comes out with at 13, I'm like, my mother would have killed me.
Oh my God.
You know, if she wanted to read them, I'd be okay with it. But I think I'm safe for now. I don't need her calling me ass face.
even aside from the language, which there's a lot. Like,
just a little.
There's some like pseudo horror, especially like in book 2. There's a lot of like body horror stuff that comes up, and like there's a. I'm not sure if either of you have gotten to book 2, but there's like.
Yes, I've already read through book 3.
Preschool scene, the Tiny Tots preschool with all these like spiderling babies with like toddler faces.
I haven't gotten to that yet.
It's very gross.
Oh
really gross.
Very, very gross. It's
I can't wait.
Not as gross as it could have been, thanks to Audible Studios.
Yes, absolutely. Yes,
but
comparatively, it could have been a lot worse.
Kids nowadays, they know way more than we do anyway. Like, you know, I started to talk about the back rooms, and she goes, I know what that is. And I was like, how do you know what the back rooms? You play Minecraft. Like, what? Like, you know, she was all savvy about it. And I'm like, tell me what it is, because I thought she was bullshitting me. She knew. And I was like, oh, okay. But, you know, like, the humor in it, I don't think she'd get. But she might.
She might. It's definitely like coded for like younger Gen Xers and millennials. Like in terms of like the nostalgia for the book series.
Oh, totally.
But the backrooms piece, like, because the backrooms are like a modern internet urban legend, and it's relatively new. Like, it kind of started in 2017 with this one random meme post that just kind of took off. And I remember, like, even very early on, like, stumbling across it and just thinking, like, oh, man, that would be the coolest dungeon dive in, this weird, liminal, extra-dimensional space that exists alongside our own reality. And you accidentally get, clip and you get stuck in there. And so even, like, from the very moment I saw this meme, I was like, man, that would be so cool. And I was stewing on it for a long time. Part of the reason why I didn't start earlier was because in the earlier days of lit RPG, so I've been like in the genre almost since the beginning. I posted my first lit RPG book released in 2016, and kind of like 2015 is sort of the start of lit RPG in like America.
Yeah.
But like in the early days, the only thing that sold was like high fantasy. That was it. Like, there were people that tried some sci-fi lit RPG, didn't sell. I had a buddy, Sam Witt, who wrote a really fantastic horror lit RPG called The Slayer Game. And I think that released in 2017, and absolutely crickets. Like, no one would touch it because it was just like high fantasy. That was the only thing that people wanted. Yeah. And as an author who like pays my bills with books, Even though I love horror, I was like, oh, okay, so that's a thing that nobody wants at all for any reason.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it has evolved. And then when DCC came along, and there's a lot of horror elements, there's like the dark comedy, none of those things. There have been other books kind of with that same vibe before, not to the same extent, but those books, like, they withered on the vine. Like, they never had any traction. But when DCC started to get serious traction, I was like, oh, the market has changed, and now suddenly the things that readers are willing to tolerate is not just epic fantasy lit RPG anymore. And I was like, man, that means I can finally do this thing, because there's at least a shot of it being able to find an audience who's going to read it, and I'm not going to be a hobo under a bridge. So, I mean, but that's one of those things. You're kind of watching the pendulum swing, and you have to figure out, like, what do I want to write that is also something that the community at large is going to actually want to read? And you kind of have to find the Venn diagram and that narrow sliver in the middle where you can be happy doing the thing, but also you're going to be able to sell enough to feed your kids. So it's kind of that special in between place.
I wonder if some of that has to do with, like, politics and culture and escapism in a way. Like, these are some of the things that people are probably thinking about, let's send your enemies to, send them there and, turn them into this or whatever. But obviously, like, that's not a thing. And, so I wonder how much that popularity is because of the way society is feeling. And, I mean, I laughed so much, even the whole, like, nun part and the Catholic guilt thing. And, like, there's so many of things that we read in here that we're like, I would never say that out loud, or would I? Like, I would love to. And so maybe that's part of it too, like, these are all the things that we wish we could do or say or wonder, and I think also we've also been in some buildings where we're like, are we in the back rooms? Like, how do we get out of here? Especially for those of us who travel a lot and ends up in these weird places, that you're not sure you're going to get out of. Like, are aliens going to come? Are we just going to get shipped off somewhere? Like, it's a good, I think, mind break sometimes with the horror stuff too. So maybe that has to do with it.
I think there's like this element, and I think DCC captured this better than Discount Dan did because of the nature of that story, where it's almost resistance literature to a degree, and I think that does play into kind of where, like, culturally we're at the moment, where a lot of the earlier lit RPGs were much more escapism and broadly divorced from reality. DCC sort of engages in reality in a very different way, which I think is also a big part of its popularity. And Discount Dan does that to an extent, not as much, because the story and the tone is just very different directionally, but at the same time, there's still kind of that underlying theme of, like, underdog fighting back against a force greater than themselves. And I will say that is the theme that's in most of my books, and has been kind of since the beginning. But I think that's something that a lot of the early lit RPGs did not have, and that some of these newer lit RPGs are kind of delving into more, and people are kind of latching onto those ideas of, kind of some of these resistant themes and fighting back, and things are bad but not hopeless, and we can make things better. So I think that resonates with a lot of readers in a way that maybe it didn't in the past.
Yeah, and I really love it too, because it's not like it's obviously like superhuman powers for things, but it's everyday things. It's not like, you have to, I don't know, like, you can use a hammer and kill somebody in real life, but this is like something else, and like the whole pog thing, I just think it is the coolest concept to have all of these weird things, or even, like the golems and it's the coolest thing to think about, like, what would that be if it really happened, I think it's pretty cool. And I can't imagine what your dreams look like. Because I'm like, what is happening in his brain right now? What?
Surprisingly normal. But I will say that after a while of doing this, and that's a question that comes up a lot, is like, where do you get all these ideas? But realistically, I feel like it's like sort of, it's like any other muscle, right? Like if you go to the gym and you work your chest out, you're gonna get a bigger chest. And I think that writing is that same way, where when you do it enough, your brain just starts to think in stories, and you like anything can be turned into a story. And that's one of the really fun things, especially with the magic system with Discount Dan. Where like my wife and I will be shopping at Lowe's, and she wants to go to the garden section, and I'm just randomly walking around looking at things on the shelf, and I'm like, oh, that would be a super cool, like, oh, this Miracle Grow, what would that look like? Oh, it's going to make you literally grow 4 times bigger, and you're going to be able to smash people for 10 minutes, or so I can walk through a Target with my kids and go into the toy section, and I can see Nito is the next big thing. Okay, well, what is that? This is going to expand into a giant slime cube that traps people for 10 minutes and it melts their flesh. Like everything in the real world can be a thing that can be in this book, and so it always kind of keeps it fresh and interesting.
Yeah, I'll never do laundry with bleach the same again. And I hope there's no parents watching me from my class, but there's occasions when I'm like, I could use that right now.
Oh, so often.
It's okay, I'll admit it. I love my job, but boy.
So I have to ask the question, James. So I love the idea of the boomerang square.
Yes.
That's genius to me. I want to know how did you come up with the idea of Dan being more of a construction worker, or as he comes into this?
So I a lot of my characters are in across multiple series are former military, because I was in the Marine Corps. I'm a combat vet, so it's really easy for me to draw on those experiences and make them feel authentic to the characters, because those are my experiences. I lived all of these things, and also like military dudes, former military dudes, they already have sort of a base skill set that makes them a little bit more resilient in a apocalyptic survival situation. And that's, there's a lot of lit RPGs where it's like, I'm an 18-year-old loser gamer dude, but now I'm in another world and I'm the best. And I'm like, well, I mean, I like the story, so I'm going to keep with it. But that's harder for me to like square of like this, a person who is terrible in this world, but then awesome in the next one. But a lot of like military first responder folks, like they already have a lot of these skills, so it's really easy as a transition. But I very specifically like Vigil Bound is another series where it's like this forced recon guy who gets basically isekai'd and turned into this Witcher-esque monster hunter. But with Dan, I wanted him to feel a little bit more lived in. I wanted him, kind of like more grounded, like get away from sort of like the hot-headed youth, and just like a dude who did the thing and now he's out in the real world. And I have lots and lots and lots of friends. That's what they do. They get out of the Marine Corps. They're like, what am I going to do? They go into construction. They go into blue-collar jobs, and it serves them well. And so I just know so many people that's sort of like a natural way to go. And then I also thought, with the kind of story that I wanted to tell, where Dan gets this thing that is super powerful, but not really in the way that he wants, right? Like it's not a nuclear bomb that he can use to blow up the bad guys. It's like, I can build this weird thing, but also I'm being hunted by the most powerful deity in this whole place. What skills are going to help me survive? And I thought, man, so a guy with kind of a background in like construction, like that's kind of a natural, easy fit for a guy like this. And then it kind of opened up so if that's kind of the build, that's what we're going with. Like a dude with a tool belt walking, just like braining things with a hammer and hurling speed squares that can boomerang back. And that's fun, man. That's silly and crazy. I haven't seen that before, but it's kind of a natural, easy fit for a character like this.
I absolutely loved it. So that's my thing. I think it's absolutely incredible to take something so not necessarily mundane, but something so simple and turn it into such an incredible weapon that really helps him in every way. I mean, we see a hammer being used constantly, but a speed square, That's very unique, and
Yeah.
that's something that really intrigued me.
Cool.
This is another thing where Steve is kind of the perfect fit for this character as well, because before Steve was a narrator, he was also like blue collar construction, right? What that was kind of what you did, and like Steve, can you tell us just a little bit about that and like how you transitioned into narrating in the first place?
Yeah, I had a whole whack ton of jobs. My boys joke all the time. They're like, we learn new things about you like every day. They make jokes to their friends or they have their friends on the phone and it's like, okay, Dad, tell us something new, some crazy new thing. And so I had a whole bunch of jobs, but when I started, I think it was about 18, 19 years old, I started doing construction as a laborer. And then I got into framing, doing more framing work. So yeah, I worked with a speed square. You know, I had a 22-ounce Von Hammer, like, I mean, all of it, right? Like, so it was all very familiar for me. And I was in construction for a long time. I ended up going into drywall and taping and did that for about 17 years I had an incorporated company and, but it was just nightmare on my body. And I had bursitis in both my shoulders. I was working like brutal hours and it was just really getting hard. And I never even wanted to be in construction. I just kind of like, I had to have a job because I was getting married and, you know, she was going to university and I needed to make sure that she was, you know, the whole plan was she was going to get her career and then I could figure out whatever I wanted to do. And that
Derek,
just
don't worry, I'll
kind
ask
of
that
went
question for you.
so I just stayed in construction for a long time. And while I was working in construction, you get so like, I mean, James, you know, when you're in construction, they just listen to the same rock station constantly. It's all the same rock and roll songs, and you love them. But man, 14 hours a day of the same damn songs, you get kind of tired of it. And I was taping residential houses. So I'd be in a house by myself entirely. And so I started wearing headphones and I was listening to music, but it was just constantly the same songs. Even though my list was like 400 songs, you go through that real quick. And I thought I should be doing something more with this time, at least bettering myself. And so I started listening to audiobooks. But you can only listen to so many nonfiction audiobooks before your brain starts to melt because they're usually like 6 to 8 hours long and you're working a 14 to 16 hour day. That's a lot to process. And, or I should say, that's a lot to process to make it sound more American. And so
Steve,
what I
you
ended
don't
up
change. You be yourself.
what I ended up doing was right around that time, Brandon Sanderson had been offered a deal to do the Finish the Wheel of Time, and I had read all of those books and loved them, but now it's been a few years, and I want to get the new one, but I mean, those books are so huge, you forget half of the stuff anyway. So I was like, I've already reread this series twice now. When book 11 came out, I'm going to do it again. Maybe I could try it on audio. And so I started listening to the audiobooks of fiction while I was working, and I just became addicted and loved it. And then, like James, reading my kids' story, bedtime stories at night, I'm like thinking, how would I do this as a narrator? What kind of voice should I give this person? And then, then you all of a sudden realize, wait, you got to keep track of the voices because your kid's like, no, Dad, that's not the Pegasus voice. You're the Pegasus voice.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
like, what did I do? What did I do with that voice? And so I just started researching it and checking it out and became like a super fan of the narrators, trying to find any clue of how they would do what they did just as a fan. And then one time I was listening to a book that's a very, very famous, popular book. I won't say what it is, but I was listening to it and I could not get through it. I was like, this narrator sucks. This is so bad. I know this is a good book and I cannot get through this. I could do a better job than this guy. I could do a better job than this guy. How does one make that happen? So then my research became a little bit more pointed, and I went down the Google rabbit hole to try and figure out how I could be a narrator. And I mean, I've told this story 1,000 times, and I love telling it every time because my wife is an amazing person. and she keeps me very on the straight and narrow because I'm heavy ADHD. And so I'm like, new hobby, new idea, new thing that I want to work on. And I would be like, hey, what do you think of this? No. What about no? How about no? And so she keeps me on that track, right? And so I was concerned that this was going to be another one of those things. And so I had gone in secret, nobody knew, and grabbed a book that I really loved, Alcatraz versus the Evil Librarians by Brandon Sanderson, because I thought I have a pretty high nasally voice, and it's gotten lower over the past 10 years. But back then, it was like really, I was like, hey guys, how's it going? You know? So like, I thought that I would work really well in books. And so I thought this is the perfect book for me. And I grabbed that book, went into my walk-in closet, closed the door, nobody knew. My wife was watching TV, and I grabbed my little earpods and put them in, had it plugged into my phone using GarageBand on my phone, and I recorded the first chapter. Tried to edit it and make sure it sounded all good and nice. And then I took that to some friends that I knew listened to audiobooks and said, what do you think? And please be honest with me. Tell me if this is something you would listen to. And they're like, dude, I would actually listen to this. This is really good. And I was like, really? They're like, seriously, you should consider this. And I'm like, oh, okay. But then I realized the next step is telling my wife. And so that took 3 months. 3 months worth of courage to, because I mean, it's still a dream, it's still a possibility until I hear that no from her. There's still a plan, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So one night we're getting ready for bed, and I've been with hearts pounding in my chest. My ears are burning, like I'm just that nervous energy. And I said, okay, babe, before you say anything, I want you to hear me out completely. Don't talk until I'm done, okay? She's like, okay. She hates audiobooks. She's not a fan. She's like, it's not reading. It's not reading. She's not an auditory learner. So she doesn't pay attention. She doesn't enjoy them. And that's fine. I was okay with that because it was my thing. And so I said, okay, you're going to have to put up with this a little bit. So please do me a favor. And I got her to listen to some samples of audiobooks, some of narrators that I thought were really good, really talented. And just to give her an idea of like, okay, I'm not going to be this good, but I'm not going to be this bad. I gave her some narrators that I thought were shit. And I was like, listen to these guys too, because I think I can do better than these guys. So I didn't say
love
that. That's what I'm thinking in my mind. So I gave her a couple of samples to listen to kind of give her like the range. This is what I'm working with. I says, okay, now I want you to listen to this. And so she put the earphones in. She listened to it, and she was sitting there. And it was, I mean, it's like 3 minutes, 4 minutes long, or whatever it was. And she stops. She takes out the earbuds, and she looks up at me, and she goes, "You could do this." And I just was like, "Oh my God, you're serious?" Like I was just like, tears coming down my face. I was so excited, and I was just like, "What? What? Are you serious?" She's like, "You could actually do this. You could do this." And I was like beside myself, because that's the beauty of having a wife that doesn't bullshit you and say, "You can do anything, honey. I believe in you." When she's hard on you for the criticisms and tells you like this, when she gives you that stamp of approval, you're like, "I can do it. I can do anything." So yeah, it was amazing.
It's the He-Man I have the power moment.
Yeah, exactly. I have the power. So I was like, all right, I need to buy a microphone. She's like, whoa, hold on. Yeah, I have to go.
There's a budget. There's a budget.
You're not spending any more money on this stuff. And I'm like, but how am I going to? I need a microphone. And she's like, no, you want to pay for this. You sell some of your other hobby shit to pay for it.
Which included what, Steve? What are some of the things you had to sell?
I sold an old broken down saxophone. I sold a guitar that I never played. I sold woodworking equipment stuff. Oh God, what else? Anyways, I sold a few things and used that money to pay for a microphone.
So what you're saying is this kind of job means you have to be willing to give up some things to begin it. That doesn't necessarily mean you have to give them up forever. It means that if you want to do this, you need to be willing to give up one or two things to be able to move forward, and that's okay. So Derek D had a question for you, James.
Yeah.
So he asked, and I'm gonna say it a little bit differently because it's asked a little bit differently. Where did the idea of having Dan start a business in the back rooms come from?
So that it sort of organically came out of the concept, right? I went into the story knowing what I wanted the setup to be, and part of it was I had read some other earlier lit RPG like merchant style books, and I won't name any names. Like I enjoyed them, but I was like, yeah, I want to do like I like this concept. I don't necessarily like the way that it's executed, and so I kind of knew that going into it, but it also kind of fit with this idea of this sort of conundrum that I had set up for Dan early on, which was I want, because there are a lot of tropes in lit RPG, and lit RPG readers like tropes. There are lots of things that they like to see over and over and over and over and over again.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
Two of the very, very common tropes are the MC gets kind of a broken, overpowered ability pretty early on. Like we see that over and over again in most books. And two, they really like to see the MP get an ability that is broken, but doesn't seem that way on the surface at first, and it's only because the MC is clever about how they use it, and that's what makes it special, and that's what makes it kind of broken. It's the main character gets the janitor class instead of like the epic demon slayer class, but they learn that they with a broom they can brush away existence, right? Like there's like a clever application of a thing that seems really common and mundane that does well. And so I had set up this conundrum. I was like, okay, I want Dan to have to fight off this entity that's way, like, far and away more powerful than he is, and he gets this thing that's really good but not in the right way. What are you going to do with it? And I thought, okay, so the thing that the back rooms doesn't have, it's got lots of monsters. Finding a skill to kill things is great, but the one thing it doesn't really have is like safety or resources at all. Those are the things that are the hardest things to possibly find in this giant, ever-shifting liminal space. And so I thought, okay, that's the thing that Dan can provide. And I really like the idea, and I do this in a lot of my stories. It's a reoccurring theme of the community together being stronger than the kind of the strong man, right? I like that idea. I like the idea of the underdog story. I like the idea of the misfits, the rebels banding together, and even though collectively, individually they aren't as powerful, collectively they are. And so I've done that in like Verdant Gate Online. I did that in Rogue Dungeon. I like that theme a lot. This is definitely a slightly different take on it, but that was kind of the idea going into it. Is okay, I provide a service that's actually genuinely beneficial to all of these people, and it's going to make their lives appreciably better. And at the same time, I get to cobble together this alliance of people who's going to help me not die horribly. And so, it just kind of I kind of set up a math equation, a story math equation, and the end result was like, well, this is the obvious answer. This is the thing that he has to do to make this work, given these constraints that I've given for Dan in the story. And that's been really fun, and I think that it offers a good balance. A lot of my stories tend to be very, very action driven, which is great. I like they almost read more like thrillers in a lot of ways. Like if you've read Vigil Bound or Verdant Gate Online, they tend to almost have thriller pacing to a degree. And with Discount Dan, there's still like a lot of crazy things that happens, and he's okay. This is the leg of the story where he's going out to do this crazy thing. But then I also like that there are these downbeat chapters sort of interspersed throughout the book, where it's like, okay, but now I get to go home and I get to recharge, and I still have problems to deal with and these little things to fix, but I can build stuff and I can make it better, and I can, I'm still at my heart, I'm still this construction worker who's just like building this cool thing for people. And so I feel like it gives it a little bit better, a little more breathing room to kind of enjoy the world than some of my other books where you're kind of on this breakneck thriller paced ride through the thing. I did something similar in another series, Rogue Dungeon, which is about this. Rourke is this like wizard in this secondary fantasy world where the Dark Lord has already won. He's part of this small underground rebel group. He tries to stage an assassination attempt against the Tyrant King. It goes horribly wrong. Magic misfires, and he ends up using this portal magic to escape. But portal magic is wildly unstable and dangerous. He ends up sort of in a parallel universe, in like our universe, but in a futuristic MMO, and he's a dungeon troll. But he still has access to all of his magic, but he's a dungeon troll. He can use his magic to sort of animate the NPCs that are in his dungeon. He takes over, he manages this dungeon, and he cobbles together an army of literal monsters to go back into his own world and take down the Dark Lord. And I really liked some of those elements from Rogue Dungeon of like, you know, him building and brokering these alliances with other dungeons and dealing with all of the heroes that are constantly trying to come in and like wipe out all of his friends who are ostensibly monsters but are really not. And kind of that whole piece of it. So there, you can definitely get glimmers of some of that in Discount Dan as well.
Okay, so I'm going to do something that, not to do any harm to you, James, because we love you. But I'm going to ask the fans to do something to honor, because I know that Discount Dan, one of the characters in the book, was written because of somebody that was very special to you, and you recently lost them.
Yeah.
So I would ask for a moment of silence for honor to your recently lost soul pup. So just know we love you, James. We
Thank
support you. I know that's a hard thing to bring up right now, and I'm not trying to bring
No,
emotions.
it's okay. I'm so for those who don't know, about 2 weeks before JordanCon happened, we have two dogs. Maddie was the older of the two. She was about 2.5 years old, and she was this boxer mix that we had rescued from the Humane Society. We got her when she was a pup. Mm-hmm. She was absolutely nutty, and I loved her to pieces. She was like my dog. She'd come in here, she'd curl up, and it was, you know, a lot of Croc was Maddie. A lot of Crocs, mainly because she had these big dopey eyes and these very concerned ears. Like constantly, she just looked anxious about everything all the time. Like my fan is going to turn into a mimic and eat someone. And so there were a lot of the mannerisms that were her. That made it into Croc. Even kind of the way that Croc looks was loosely based on Maddie. About 2.5 weeks before JordanCon, you know, she wasn't eating as much, and we were like, man, must be digestive issues. We took her into the vet. They said, yeah, probably just GI upset. They gave us some medicine. They said, you know, check back in a week if it hasn't fixed things. It had not fixed things. We went in. They're like, okay, well, you know, we'll run a couple tests, and they took some scans, and she had like just terminal cancer. It was just everywhere, over like every organ, her entire body. It was just like she was cancer at that point.
Yeah.
And we were like, is there anything we can do? And they're like, no. I mean, she's just too far gone. You have, you know, maybe 3 weeks left with her. She's gonna decline really rapidly, and she did. She, you know, just was just within a couple of weeks, she was just skin and bones. It was really hard. And so I skipped JordanCon. I pulled out so that I could spend that remaining time with her, and then we had a vet come in and into our house, and we had a great day. Last day, we had steak and egg breakfast and a big long walk, but so this is her little paw print, her final paw print that we got here from the vet, and but yeah, it was really hard. I have lost a lot of dogs. For those who have read book 3. There's a particular scene that you'll probably know about. It's this scene with this collar and macaroni. I won't say too much, but that was also based on Another dog that I lost, Macaroni. He was our pug, and I had lost him while I was writing the first Discount Dan book. He was much older. He was 14, and he was declining. So it was still sad to see him go. But that scene was that. But I remember writing that scene, just ugly crying, and Maddie was laying at my feet, and I remember thinking, like, man, it's going to suck so bad when I lose this dog. Thank God that's not going to be for years and years and years to come. And so, it just like a judo chop to the throat. So it sucked a whole lot. It kind of wrecked me there for a couple weeks, but like,
yeah,
I'm recovering, and I'm really grateful that we have our other dog, Winnie, who's a sweetheart. That's made it a lot easier.
Yeah, animals are our other kids,
Yeah,
exactly.
They're so sweet.
Oh yeah,
So-
and like save us from so many things.
All the time.
So the reason I brought that up wasn't just to tell you we love you and we're supporting you and we're sad for your loss. Steve, I was going to ask, so we know that Croc is a huge part of this story. Like he has an absolute love for Twilight, and he has an absolute love for all of that. How did the back and forth go between you and James in creating Croc's voice? Because he has a very unique voice.
He does. It was actually very simple and organic, genuinely, because James had a definitive and definite idea in mind for how he wanted Croc voiced. And he sent me the manuscript, and I read it over, and we didn't really talk about it. And of course, in all the chapters that he ever recorded that he got me to talk about, he never did the voice of Croc, so I never heard any of that from him. But then as I'm reading the book, prepping for it, I immediately am thinking, this is exactly who Croc needs to sound like. And I'm going to talk to James and see what he thinks, but I'm going to really see, if it's not his idea, then I'm going to really push for it. And so I sat down with him, and we had a lot of characters and a lot of stuff to talk about the series. And I says, okay, tell me what you're thinking about with these, because they didn't want to be like, okay, so this is what I want to do. I'm like, no, I'll let him, tell me what he thinks, and then we'll have a discussion. And so when he said, this is what I want, I was like, thank you, immediately. That's perfect. So it was very simple. It was very easy. Dan was not that hard. I had two ideas of the way I wanted to go with Dan, and I presented both to James, and I was like, what do you think? And he's like, I want this one. And I was like, done. So it was very simple. James has been amazing to work with. He's been super on board for a bunch of stuff. He's very clear in his writing. He makes these voices sound very distinct already in his writing. That makes my job as a narrator that much easier. So I love that about the way I get to work with the characters that he's given me. There were some times, though, like with the brownies, because he put
the brownies were all Steve.
He put so many pop culture references in there, especially from the 90s. When I first read the scene with the brownies, immediately I was like, these are the aliens from Toy Story. The claw. I mean, it was just like, that's all I heard. So I thought, for sure, again, this is one of these things where this is exactly what I wanted. So I was like, hey, so I really think this was that dude. He's like, what? No, but that's awesome. Yeah, let's do that. And I was like, okay, sweet. So it was exciting to like have that where he's like, I can't believe I didn't put that together. Man, what a missed opportunity.
Yeah, there are some characters like with Croc, like from the beginning, Korg from Thor Ragnarok, which is my favorite of all of the Marvel MCU movies. But then there's also an actor named Rhys Darby, who's this New Zealand actor. He was in a show called Flight of the Conchords, which I really thought was hilarious. So Croc, like from the beginning, was a mix of Korg from Thor Ragnarok and Rhys Darby. And so when I was writing it, it was like just channeling that voice. And so I think it came clear. But with a lot of the other characters, I don't really have like a very specific preference for how they're going to sound. Like sometimes I'll send Steve an audio clip for a new character, and I'm like, yeah, kind of in this ballpark, but it's, take it or leave it. If you have a different idea, happy to go in a different direction. You're the professional. This is where you shine. I'm going to defer to you. Croc was the only one where I was like, no, this is it. And she was like, yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking too. This is it. And so that was it. I do think it's funny with the brownies, and you haven't quite gotten there yet, Kristen, but they're these weird little laundry creatures that like they live and almost fetishize dirty laundry, and it becomes like a story arc. And it's like and they're these teeny tiny little creatures.
I can't wait.
They believe that Dan is like this chosen prophesied one, and so they form this little cult around Dan. And it's kind of like this throwaway thing. But later on, there's like even like little subplots revolving around them because they are extraordinarily religious, and again, their religion is Dan. But they're also prone to extreme like violence and like disputes over small things.
Oh, there's no way I'm waiting for July to read that. I'm going to have to get it tomorrow now.
It's
I
very
love
funny.
that.
And so, like when Steven originally pitched the brownie voice, I was like, this is great. But now I kind of chuckle to myself, and I think constantly as I'm writing these brownie scenes, which are like there's like philosophical conversations, but it's all around dirty laundry and like religious rituals of sacrificing beer and pizza. And I'm trying to imagine Steve having to figure out like, how am I going to do this in this really weird aliens from Toy Story voice? And it kind of cracks me up all the time thinking about that.
I love that. Steve, what are some of your favorite lines from it that are on repeat in your head?
Well, I mean, anything Croc says is just a delight. Like,
Yeah.
how can you not love Croc? He's just the best boy ever. And I mean, the thing, like, there's so much to love about this series, and there's so much to love about these characters. And because we're doing them like you said, like he wrote them rapid style, and I've been trying to narrate them rapid style, but you still want to stay in the moment, and you have to make every moment your favorite moment so that you're not losing as a narrator. If I'm losing interest as I'm reading it out loud, guaranteed anybody who's listening is going to lose interest, right?
Yeah.
So I need to keep my energy and my passion for what's being said, even if it's sad or if it's, a slow moment, you still have to have that energy that's there for it, right? And so every moment becomes a special moment. And the ones, obviously, because it's much more recent, the ones that really stand out for me are the ones from book 3.
It's all recency bias for sure.
Yeah.
There's nothing like that. But I will say that, like, I have a massive affinity for all of it. I'm so excited that James has put out the call for this Discount Dan anthology, where
we call it the Discount Danthology. I think that's our.
And so this concept of getting other people to write stories about all the people that Croc has tried to help, and then they just die horribly. I am just beside myself. But those are some of my favorite little moments when he's like, if you go and eat that plant, you're going to die because it's going to lay worms in your stomach, and then those are going to eat you from the inside out, and it's going to hurt really, really bad. So don't do that. And so, I mean, like, just so optimistic about like
love it.
Horrible death is just like, really? Are you sure it's that horrible? Because you sound delightful while you're saying that. So I do love those moments. And then I did have for book 2, I did have 2 scenes that really meant a lot to me, as far as like I really put a lot into the performance, and then Audible Studios cut them both down, and I was like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" One was the toddler mimic scene where Croc. Yeah, it was a crazy scene, and I tried to stay exactly true to what James had wrote in the story, and I put that in the audio, but they felt that I took some artistic license that they didn't want to be in there, so they cut a lot of it out. And I was
He
like,
he played it for me. I had signed off on it. This is not, but like there's these spider toddler things. They kill a bunch of them, and then Croc, being Croc, eats them because he insists they taste like cookies, and so he's like slurping and offering to share this corpse pile that Dan has been promising him with everybody else. And he's just describing it, but he's like munching and slurping and gulping while he's talking to the others. And like, so Steve did that, right? It's like him delivering the Croc lines, but like, all these gross, slurpy, gurgly noises. It was amazing.
And then the other one was
amazing.
the other one that was I actually have that clip, the director's cut, we'll call it, of Croc eating as a video on TikTok. It's in my
I'm gonna find it.
But the other one was, there's a character that's introduced in book 2. I think can we say his name? From the slightly psychedelic guy they meet in the agency. It was hidden.
Yeah, I think we can say it.
Yeah.
Ed. So we meet Ed, and there's a point where Ed has a breakdown, and that scene, because of the way he broke down, I really like. As a narrator, I want to create a movie in your mind. I want to have it be as honest and real and visceral. And so in those moments, I try and make it as true to what those characters would really be feeling in that moment. And so I did that with him. And there was a couple of things that were in the narrative of what he had, what sounds he made or things that he had done. And I added that into his performance. And they're like, no, we can just cut those out. Because to publishers like Audible Studios and like Penguin Random House and HarperCollins, all those people, they're used to what people traditionally thought audiobooks should be. 30 years ago, if you tried to put any kind of inflection or performance into your audio, they would cut it out. They wouldn't even hire you. They were like, we do not want your interpretation of the audio. Read it straight. So you had to read it with as little inflection or personality or intention as possible. And that, thank goodness, has evolved and morphed as more people get invested in audiobooks, and especially in the lit RPG community. They're like, no, we need that, we want that, give it more. And so they're still, they're excited to be working on lit RPG. Dungeon Crawler Carl has opened up a lot of doors for that, but now they don't quite know what to do with it. And so actually, James and I, on multiple times, have really advocated for Discount Dan through Audible Studios to be like, hey, we really want this. One of the things, one of the ones that we actually struggled with in book 1 was finding the right voice for the AI, because James would be like, okay, I think I know what the AI I want him to sound like. Here's a video. And he would send me a clip of like Claptrap or whatever. And he's like, this is what I like. And I was like, okay. So I would like try and work it out and try and figure out how to make my voice sound like Claptrap and, play around with it. And then he would, half an hour later be like, actually, no, I think it should be more like this. And then 3 days later, hey, I think this would be a good idea. Why don't we try this one? So we were trying a bunch of different stuff to find the right voice for what he wanted the AI to sound like. But we agreed that the AI definitely needed to have a more mechanical sound to it. And as good as I like to think I am, there's a certain quality that is just not possible to kind of create with your own voice. And so we wanted that voice to have an audio effect on it. And we advocated, both of us, to Audible Studios.
Which is such a small thing when you like listen to DCC, but like Audible Studios kind of fought us every step of the way, and they're like, no, we can't do that. And we're like, well, but we can, and you can, just do it. And then Steve was going to do it, and they're like, no, we don't want Steve to do it. Like, he just has to read it normally, and then we'll put the VFX in over the top. And I'm like, oh, that sounds like a terrible idea. Why doesn't Steve just do it? And they're like, no. So there's a lot of that. By the way, the voice that we finally settled on, if anyone is curious and knows, Courage the Cowardly Dog. So in Courage the Cowardly Dog, Courage, something bad happens, and he runs up to his computer and he types in, evil spirit raining frogs down on the farm. And then the computer talks to him, and it's kind of this very condescending, very mean-spirited, refined, sort of pseudo-British voice, and he's always just like thrashing Courage, and I was like, it's perfect, and it like fits the vibe because it's like it's Dan and Croc, it's weird 80s 90s reference callback stuff, and so that was the one we had finally settled on. So it's really just the computer from Courage the Cowardly Dog.
And then we freaked out because they had done a great job and it sounded good with book 1. And then we did book 2 and we don't get to preview it. Like they do all their editing, all their stuff, and we don't get to hear it until it's released. And so they released it and I had to go and buy it myself just so I could hear what it sounded like. And I'm listening and all of a sudden the AI comes in because I was checking it and there's no
effects. Which is what I told them I was worried about in the first book. I was like, hey, like you guys are gonna miss this. They're like, no, we're definitely not gonna miss it. And like they didn't in the first book to their credit, but then they did completely in the second book. But then we like emailed them and they went back in and their editors were like, oh yeah, sorry, there was a note here that we didn't see. And I'm like, nah. And but they fixed it pretty quickly. But yeah, it was a small thing. I will say, this isn't directly pertaining to the anthology, but and I don't think it's going to be in the anthology. So this is I'm doing a Kickstarter in July. It's going to be a super. I
was going to bring that up, but I wasn't going to do it until you brought it up because.
So yeah, because I'm not supposed to talk about it at all.
I know. Like I said,
was like, hey, don't talk about this. But I'm really.
You brought it up.
I'm really bad at keeping a secret, and I get so excited about things, and I'm like, let's just talk about it. So we're doing this Kickstarter. It's going to be awesome. Like, you're pulling out all the stops. We're going to have all this crazy interior art and the sprayed edges. We're actually going to do this is homage to Twilight. So this is the Twilight special edition, and one of the greatest things. So it's just gold foil on the edges. But it's got a hidden relief, so when you turn it one way, it's Edward, and when you turn it the other way, it's Bella, which I think is so funny and amazing. And so I was like, we need to do this as an homage to the Twilight custom edition, and so we're going to do that for Discount Dan, but it's going to be Croc on one side, Dan on the other.
Oh, I love that.
Kind of looking lovingly at each other, and we're getting like a new dust jacket, and then it's going to be like faux leather. It's really cool. We're also... and I posted pictures on my Patreon, but we have this Croc plushie that we're going to release with it. All of this is to say,
I want one of those.
One of the things they wanted to do is they wanted me to write a sort of a short story. It's not as short as I thought it was going to be, as like a special piece of content to go in the back of book 1 as an add-on. And so I was kind of mulling it over. It's going to be like 22,000 words probably, which is not particularly short as short stories go. It's like almost a third of the length of a normal book, but whatever.
Yes,
so I was like, what do I want to do? And so I decided I'm almost done with it. But it's Dan is not in the story at all. It's from Croc's POV, but it's third person limited. So it's not first person like the main books, but it's like Croc's POV. And it's Croc and Pony Puff and Baby Hands like going on a misadventure and solving crimes inside the store. Awesome. So it's like very, very. It's like there's like a retail crime gang that's like working, and Pony Puff, who considers the entire store like her personal domain, is deeply offended by this, and so she forcibly recruits Croc and Baby Hands to be her her 3-man band to go hunt down this ruffian criminal organization, and it's shenanigans too. It's very silly and kind of heartwarming, and so it's I'm going to include that. But
wait.
But we are hoping to get Steve to record both the anthology, but then also to record this short story that will pair with the short story that's in the back that will release for the Kickstarter edition as well. So it's really fun. So I'm having so much fun with it. I'm like, I should do some more of these short stories, like just put them in the back of some of the other books, because you can never really get to see like what is going on behind the scenes on like the smaller granular level. And Pony Puff is so weird, and Baby Hands is so weird.
So weird, but so awesome. Like, okay, I like that sidekick.
Yeah.
Yep.
But like in this, you'll really get to see the weird, evil, overbearing, but also kind of enduringly likable Pony Puff. And then Baby Hands is just like, he's a giant golem made out of trash with a basketball head, and he's like so dumb, but he's just like really happy to be there, and he's just like, Baby Hands, go undercover, and it's just like he's just so dumb and so funny.
Awesome.
So I'm really excited for that, and I'm going to do a couple more of those because it's just like fun and silly.
So we explained a little bit about the anthology, and for those that don't know about this, James has put out a call. He's asking that if you have a story that you would like to tell about this character that Croc has interacted with, that is going to die.
It doesn't have to exclusively be that. Just to like, that is one of the pitches. Is like, yes, we want that. Croc does not need to be in the story. Dan can't really be in the story other than as a sidekick. Like a background character, but you can write other characters that have not been mentioned in the books. The only requirement is that someone, a Delver, has to die horrifically in some way. That's the only thing. Like, other people can live; it can be a happy ending, but someone is not going to have a happy ending and has to die.
Someone has to die.
And the other thing that you should mention, because I'm excited about this concept, I can't wait to see it comes in, is that it's not just writing. You're encouraging artists to give us renditions and fan art or different depictions of and all that kind of stuff as well, that you will be including in the anthology. I'm not wrong?
Yeah, 100%. So there's going to be a bunch of opportunities for like interior art from the community. I was talking with Jess, who's our art director today, and I was like, hey, we need to commission a cover for this. And we were kind of kicking around. We have a bunch of artists like that work for Shadow Alley and do different projects. And Jess had this great idea, and she's like, "This is really like a fan thing." Because I was not, I didn't come up with the idea. I had a bunch of people on my Discord that really love the series, and they were like workshopping. They're like, wouldn't this story idea be cool? And wouldn't this be cool? And I'm designing my own relics and my own things. And so a couple of them got together. They're like, hey, we want to write these short stories. Is there any chance like you'd put out an anthology? And I was like, I guess I had not thought about doing that, but like the setting itself lends itself really well to that kind of thing. But so it's really fan driven. And so Jess was like, hey, we should put out the template as well there's very specific like the template dimensions for the cover art, because it's going to be a paperback and all of those things. And she was like, on top of the regular sort of art submissions, we should put out an additional call with the template for people who want to do the cover, and we'll vote on it just like the other pieces, but then we'll pay whoever wins the cover commission $1,000, and then that will be the cover of the anthology. Just as a way again of like this is a fan thing. I am really excited about it, but really I just want to invite people in to do cool things, and so hopefully this will be a cool opportunity to include people who are not just writers and do cool art and find a way to include them as well.
So maybe I'm going to have my daughter read it after all, because she draws some amazing horror. Like she draws stuff and I'm like, where did you get that from? I mean, and she's like, well, I did it to freak out my math teacher. And I'm like, holy cows. I might have to have her read it now. Cause I'm like, I look at it and I'm like, okay, please don't put that up in front of my face when I'm sleeping. Because she's not into that. She reads romance books. And all of a sudden there's this demon.
There's horror is lurking.
Right.
Because she's 13. So like that, like horror is underneath all 13-year-olds, I think.
I look at her stuff and I'm like, whoa, like, wait a second. What is that? Horrific stuff. So I might have to have a plan with my daughter, Grace. I think she'd have a lot of fun with that. And she's a huge animal lover. I think she would love Croc, especially like Croc's the cleanup crew for so many parts of
Absolutely.
this. He's like, oh, there's an arm. I'll eat that.
Yeah.
So she might have a blast with that. I don't know that she'd be able to put
And
it in the school art show though.
no, probably not. And since she likes romance, she might also connect with Croc over the shared love of Twilight. I'm not sure if she's a Twilight fan yet, but like,
So she was until she saw the movies. She read them and she was okay. And then she's like, Mom, you watched this? This is shit. And I'm like, you're right. They are pretty bad. And then there's all these fancy editions now of them. And she's like, should I buy them? Should I not buy them? So yeah.
it's so.
Steve,
Sorry,
you
go
had a
ahead.
comment.
I have to say, speaking on this, because I had a similar experience, not with Discount Dan, obviously, but my son a couple of years ago he's not a fan of reading. He wasn't interested in reading. And my older son, I got him into reading by getting him to start with audiobooks. And my other son, I couldn't get him into the same audiobook, so nothing was working. And I hadn't had a chance to read to read Dungeon Crawler Carl yet. And I mean, of course, I'm a fan of Jeff Hayes, and he's a friend, and so I was like, I gotta try these out. And so I thought, not knowing much about it, but I thought these are crazy covers, and this is kind of a kooky thing. I should see if he's maybe interested in checking this out. So we tried Dungeon Crawler Carl together and started listening to it. Now, he was like 12, 13 at the time. And we started listening to Dungeon Crawler Carl, and all of a sudden I was like, that's not really great. And then, maybe that's just, okay, we'll keep going. But he was really into it. He's like, no, and then so then pretty soon it was like he was only listening it with me. We were always listening it together, and I would pause it and I'd be like, hey, so what do you think is going on here? Why do you think that And I use these as opportunities to talk to them about some really real stuff. And there were some times where he would like we'd be driving in the car, and he would just do this, like, look at me like, are you sure we're listening to this? Is this okay? But he's really loved the series, and it's got him into reading more stuff, which is great. It only became when in grade 8, he decided that he was going to write a book report, and he could pick any book that he wanted. So he wrote a book report for Dungeon Crawler Carl. And there was some criteria of stuff that he had to put in there. And one of them was like, I can't remember what the name of them is. It's like when you say something is like it was raining like cats and dogs, or whatever.
Simile. Had to have to get it in, yeah.
So then some of the similes he was using was some insults that were not super appropriate.
Did you get called in for a conference?
Well, this is the thing. This is the funny thing is my wife is she's really studious. And so she knew we were listening to these books, but she didn't know what the content of the books was. And so now she's helping edit his book report and helping him with stuff. And going, what is it that you guys are reading? What is
I love it. That's the best.
And she's like, amazing. Quite committed now. So she was helping him write stuff and like editing out the ass hat that shouldn't be in there. And so anyways, I had to message Matt. And so I sent Matt a message, and I said, I just wanted you to know that my son is writing his book report for grade 8 on Dungeon Crawler Carl. And he said, you better get an A, or I'm going to come over to that teacher. And I'm going to. So anyway, ironically enough, he did not have to come down because he got an A on his book report of Dungeon Crawler Carl.
That's awesome. As a teacher, I would love to read a book report like that.
His teacher was definitely like, what is this book? Can we get it from the library? And he's like, oh, maybe you should. Like,
maybe not. Maybe don't.
Yeah, maybe not. Okay, so
the abridged version.
I feel like, maybe Discount Dan can be something that, like, if your kids are a maturity level, an appropriate level, because honestly, I get it. Like, my kids were way younger, and hearing way worse stuff and seeing way worse stuff from their friends. And my mentality is,
That's my mentality too.
I didn't want my kids to be watching or trying or doing stuff and hiding it from me because I said, no, that's bad, that's wrong.
Yep.
And then they end up sneaking around. I would rather be there.
Me
like,
too.
like, hey, I want to watch my older son. He wanted to watch The Walking Dead with me. And he was like 15 at the time, 14, 15. And he's like, I want to watch The Walking Dead. And I'm like, what do I do with this? Because he's the type of kid that if I say no, he's going to sneak behind my back, and then he's not going to have to process it. At least if I'm in the room with him, I can be like, okay, close your eyes. Close your eyes.
Absolutely.
You know,
Yeah.
like this is now you don't want to see this part, but let him watch it in a controlled environment and then watch and be like, okay, do you understand why they would be acting that way? Do you understand why this is important? What happens in this society? Like why these things are so extreme, and it gave us a great opportunity to have some really good dialogue. And then later on, when they're like, there's been other stuff that they're like, hey, I want to check this out. Hey, I'm interested in this. And they know they can come to me because I'm not just going to be like, no. You know, so crucify me if you want, but I felt like it's brought us closer, and it's allowed us to really, talk about some heavy issues in a serious form.
Well,
so
the thing of it is,
that's great.
Of kids,
like teenagers tend to, well, kids in general tend to see the underlying meaning behind it anyway, because we're kind of instilling like even the politics of the world. They see it around them all the time, and we want to protect them from that, but they see it all the time. So if they can read something and then relate it to what they're seeing and get a conversation out of it, then I'm all for that too. I always tell my daughter, you read what you want and then we'll talk about it as you go. And she does that. I mean, we just went to Books A Million last weekend, spent $500 on books. Like, I don't know how that happened, but I was like, I can't tell you no to your 6 books if I have 10 in my hand. So, okay, I guess I'll just work some more. But my niece was saying to me, well, that book says mature on it. And I'm like, okay, but if you're having that conversation with your kids and you're not just blindly letting them read whatever, I know that she's going to come to me with real world problems. And that's the thing. And so books like this, I'm cracking up and she's like, well, what's that about? And then she's like, wait a second, what? I didn't know she knew what Backrooms was. I learned something new about my kid from it, So I think it's awesome. So I think more parents need to be that way,
Well, and I remember when I was a kid and this was way back. This is going to date me a lot. Roseanne was the quintessential, family comedy show.
Yeah.
And there was an episode where Roseanne and Dan had a fight, and then they were arguing, and then he went off to the bar, or she went off to the bar or whatever. And one of them chased the other one back in the bar, but they pretended that they didn't know each other, and they did like the whole role playing, like, "Hey, little lady, what are you doing in this bar?" And I don't know. And they were kind of like making up and working it out. And then at one point, it kind of got really into it. And she says to Dan, how far away did you park? And he's like, real close. And she's like, okay, good. And they start racing out the door. And so myself and my whole family, like my mom and everybody, we all laughed. But then all of a sudden my mom stopped and she said, why are you laughing? And I was like, and she's like, what, do you understand why that's funny? Like, what is, and so they had to explain to my mom why it was funny that they want that vehicle to be close in the parking lot of what they were going to do in that vehicle when they got there. Yeah. And that's a thing to have to explain to your mom. But she's like, okay, at least I know, I know what you get it. And then you have an awareness of what they're doing. And because she didn't react negatively to me about that and be like, how did you know what that was? And, then grill me for half an hour. I feel a lot more safe to be able to have conversations about stuff because they're not freaking out about knowing about something. And so my voice is something will come up and they'll laugh and they'll be like, do you know why that's funny? And they're like, yeah. Why? I don't want to say. Just say. And so then they do, and I'm like, okay. And but then we can talk about it, and then they know that I'm not freaking out. It's okay. and
Yep.
so they can have real
Yeah.
conversations with me later on. So
Okay. So
Agreed.
I I don't want to take too much more of your time because we're going on about an hour and a half. Um, and we love this. Like I will talk all night if
Yep.
you want to, but I want to make sure that you can get your sleep and get the things that you
Yeah.
need because
I do
we know
appreciate that.
they're
I'm on kid duty in the morning, so it's going to be an early 6 a.m. for me.
yes.
Yeah.
So
Tomorrow's
before
teaching day
we
for me too.
yep. So before we
My heart
go,
goes out to you.
Thank
yes.
you.
So before we go, James, Steve, we'd like to know. We've already talked about the anthology. We've already talked about other things. But what are some of the things that you have coming up? Where can people find you? Because we've had a few questions of where merchandise can be purchased, where books can be purchased, things like that. So we'll give you time to talk about your upcoming projects and where people can find you.
Yeah, so I guess I'll start. I am always working. I do want to shout out again. My wife and I run Shadow Alley. We have been publishing lit RPG and progression fantasy for a long time, since 2017, and we are much smaller than Athon by design. We work really closely with our authors. We love all of the people that we work with, and we want to build long term relationships with people so that like they can be authors, which is the coolest job on the planet. And with that said, like I love all of the books that we publish. It's the benefit of being a publisher is I get to read books that I love, and I'm like, this is so cool. It should exist in the world, and I have the opportunity to make that happen. So if you haven't checked out shadowalleypress.com, go check it out. Sign up to our mailing list. We have so many amazing authors who just they're awesome people. They're fantastic writers, fantastic storytellers. So please go check out some of those books. We have a Discord that you can join. An advanced street team. We call it the Archivists because they get all the arcs early that you can sign up for if you're interested in that. In terms of what I'm working on right now, it's more Discount Dan. I'm working through book 4, Discount Dan's Disco Inferno. You can take some guesses on what that's going to be about. It's going to be weird. The anthology will be coming up. The Kickstarter's coming out soon. I will also be working on, for those who may be familiar with it, Vigil Bound is another one of my series. I'm going to be, after I get done with Discount Dan 4, I'm going to be working on book 5 in that series, which I think will be the last one in that series. For merchandise, especially if you like Discount Dan, you can go to discountdan.shop. You can find all of the signed editions. There are loot boxes, patches, robes, T-shirts, so many weird, cool, awesome things. Wilkie, actually, this is actually the special edition Crocstar robe that Wilkie has there.
I love that.
And then Steve has
That's
he
awesome.
has a variant robe because I made it special for Steve. Those are all googly eyes because it's just Croc. But you can go check those out on discountdan.shop. Connect with me here on TikTok, on to find my books on Amazon, on Audible, obviously. But yeah, that's how you can find me and support me. I will say, for all of the people, you can buy the physical books on Amazon. But the books that we list on the discountdan.shop, I know that like the economy is not great for a lot of people right now, and people are feeling the pinch. So when people choose to support me with their money, I am extraordinarily grateful for it. So with all of the signed books, like I personalize them, I sign them. There's little messages in them. I do little doodles in all the books. I add stickers and pogs and all kinds of weird things, and I do a handwritten thank you note for literally every single order that goes out, because I want everyone to know how deeply appreciative that I am, that they would spend their time and their money to support this weird art that I choose to do. So if you like that, check them out there.
Your handwriting is impeccable. My wife was actually like, clearly James gets his wife to write all of these. That is not a man's writing. That is too nice.
No, that is his handwriting.
I will say, I may not be the best author out there, but I think I might be the number one contender for nicest handwriting of any author out there on the market. It's pretty good. I was a very copious note taker during my school days, and so I have a pretty good mastery of penmanship.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do.
Okay, so Steve, what projects are you working on, and where can people find you?
Well, I mean, you can find me just about anywhere. I'm on most of the major social media things. I think I have a link tree in my bio if you want to look through. One of the things that I love to do is live stream my recordings. So I am on Discord. You can come hang out with me, and then you get all of the backrooms antics that goes on while we're working on these projects, and the crazy hilariousness that goes on there, and it gets messed up. I'm not gonna lie. There's some.
I love it.
But
That's awesome.
like literally tears of laughter and tears of sorrow. So many. Uh, the things that I'm working on right now is I'm finishing up Grand System Bending 3. I love this series. It's a post-apocalyptic world that is where the aliens have decided to assimilate planet Earth into their global world of like planet federations or whatever. But in order to do that, they got to power everybody up. And the rest of the planets all have magic and mana, but Earth does not. So they have to insert a mana core into the center of the Earth, which then starts producing mana, which makes goblins and monsters spontaneously start coming out of the Earth and out of the sphere onto the planet Earth. And so we're like dealing with modern day real world stuff, and goblins are like suddenly like clogging up morning traffic, and you're like, what the heck do you do? And so one guy's like, he sees a few goblins eating a woman, and is like, this is not okay, like she's dead. So he like is in his little Toyota Tercel and is like, burp, burp, boop, 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 and just like starts smashing all of the goblins and running.
I have ideas for chapters for that.
And so the funny thing, like it was just one of the most beautiful moments because we were recording this, and I just had this perfect image in my mind, the way he wrote it, and I was like, I can totally see what he's going for here, because in the moment there's gore and viscera and black blood from these goblins covering his windshield, and he's kind of stuck at one point, and him and his buddy are in the car together, and he quietly looks over at his buddy, and he just kind of silently goes over and twitches the windshield wipers and wipe all the blood off, and it's just the most perfect awkward comedy.
That's awesome.
This moment. So
that's amazing.
The series is hilarious. There's a motherload of dick jokes that is really, really funny. Great ensemble cast. A lot
and
of
Ryan Maxwell is so nice. He's a really great guy and a great author.
Oh, I love Ryan Maxwell. He's amazing.
So that series, I love it. We're working on finishing up book 3. I feel like him and James and Ryan have conspired to try and make me weep as many tears as possible with the amount of really like they give you this crazy horrific hijinks and like stupid body humor, and then cut you to the quick with these incredibly emotional deep moments that you're just like, oh my gosh. And so literally I came off of Discount Dan 3 where I had moments where I'm just sobbing, and then I go into doing Grand System Bending 3 and he makes me cry even harder, and I'm like, what are you guys doing to me? And I just I broke down just weeping at these beautiful moments that they're writing, and I get the privilege to work on. But so yeah, I'm finishing that one off, and then immediately after that, we're starting right away Industrial Strength Magic 3. And if you have not had a chance to experience that series, you must try it. Because if you're a fan of Jeff Hayes, of Dungeon Crawler Carl, if you're a fan of me and what we're doing at Discount Dan, this is your opportunity to have all those worlds combined. Because Industrial Strength Magic is my main narration, but it's being produced by Sound Booth Theater, and it features Jeff Hayes, Justin Thomas James, Annie Ellicott. In book 2, we introduced Andrea Parsnow and Lori Catherine Winkle. I am working very hard because in book 3 and book 4, we have more characters, and I want more voice actors. And there's some really big characters that I think
that's a all-star who's who of narrators. That's amazing.
Add some more. I really want to add
That's
some
fun.
more. It is.
I feel like if you can get like Travis Baldree to even do like a cameo line, then that's like the ultimate blackout bingo of lit RPG narrators there.
I can't. I'm not going to try and give away too much, but I'm going to put this into the stratosphere. So I hope that this happens because I do want Travis Baldree to do a couple of characters. I'm going to hope that happens. But also in book 4, our main character goes to Australia, and there's like 7 or 8 Australian characters. So I'm like, how do we not call Heath Miller and say,
you gotta get him?
What are you doing? You gotta come and help us out with this. So I'm going to try and pull all of my narrator favors I can to see if we can't make that happen. I know that Sound Booth Theater has some crazy pull, and so I'm really hoping that we can add more awesome people to this series. It is a lot of fun. It starts out, if you can remember, a number of years ago, there was a movie called Sky High. It's a Disney movie, and Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell not Goldie Hawn. What's her name? She was married to frick, I'm losing everybody's mind. The guy who did Adele Azim, Saturday Night Fever, Mr. Carter. What's his name? Grease. Come on, like
John Travolta.
Oh, John Travolta.
Good Lord. So John Travolta's wife. I can't remember the name of her, but anyways, they were the superhero parents, and they had a kid. They were like the big number 1 superheroes in the world, and then their kid was expected to have all these amazing superpowers and doesn't. And so he has to go to superhero college or high school or whatever, but he's not a super, and it's really embarrassing for him, and he doesn't know what to do. And they're just like, are you a late bloomer? Like, what's happening? And that's kind of where this story starts, but it just goes from there. And it's been such an awesome thing. It was Kurt Russell, yes. Kurt Russell.
Oh, you're right. It was Kurt Russell. Yeah.
And Bruce Campbell was the coach. Yep.
Yes,
So
it's Sky
great.
High.
Yeah, Sky High. It's a great series.
Oh, that's right.
It's a lot of fun. And so that Industrial Strength Magic, we've been waiting a little while for book 3 and book 4, mostly waiting for me. But I'm really excited to get back into that series. It's going to be so much fun. So that's what I have going on right now. Lots more beyond that, but too much time already.
That's very exciting. We love you
more
guys.
books to add to my shelves.
Yep, exactly.
And I just noticed my kid joined the live, so she's not in bed at 11 o'clock on the East Coast. She must have heard me saying she might need to read.
That's true.
Right now, this is much better than being asleep.
We're bringing them in.
Not going to get in trouble. No.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Before we end, I need to say, all of you that are in the chat, go follow Kristen. Go follow Steve.
Thank you.
Go follow James. Like, these 3 incredible, wonderful, amazing people bring joy and happiness to my soul. Like I said, I'm just here as a watcher. Like, I love Steve. I love James. I love Kristen. All 3 of you bring joy
Wilkie.
as you do this. Kristen.
Yes. Thank you so much, Steve and James, for joining us. I mean, we've been on our Discord just having a blast talking about the books, and we've already started channels for the 2nd and 3rd book, so everybody can start reading those too. And I was going to try to hold out until July. There's no way. There's no way. I had so much fun with this whole series. So, God, I got piles.
I think book 1 was great. But there's a lot of necessary world building and setup that has to happen because a lot of RPG books are that way, where you have to introduce the concepts and the systems and you kind of ground things out. But then it's done and you can really hit the ground running. So I think that book 2 is better than book 1, and I think book 3 is better than book 2. I feel like this series has so far. I've been able to kind of go from strength to strength, and so I think as good as book 1 is, I think it just gets better. So
I can't wait.
I would also like to say before we go, thank you, Kristen and Wilkie, for like taking time out of your busy lives and out of your day and your night to sit here and talk with us. I cannot tell you how appreciative we are of all of the readers in the book talk community. Y'all have been so incredibly wholesome and supportive. Like it's just genuinely mind blowing how nice y'all are. Like so many of us authors, we're just by ourselves and like we throw these books out into the world and we hope that people don't hate them. And so to really be able to connect with readers who care enough to not only read, but like take time out of their lives to do this stuff, incredible. Y'all are incredible. The folks that are in the chat, spending your night with us when there are so many other things that you can be doing. I cannot thank you enough for your support. You're all amazing. And I genuinely value the time that I get to spend and talk with readers. It's literally the best part of my job.
Thank you. And I can't wait to meet you at Lit RPG Con.
It's going to be amazing.
I have to back on to what James says because he's not going to do this enough for himself. And I do. I thank you guys both so much for taking the time to do this. It's amazing. It's awesome. I could talk about these books all day long.
Yeah, it's fun.
I saw a thing that was posted in Reddit about how publishers are now looking at Lit RPG and like, hey, we want to make this is a big thing. We're excited about this. What books are going to be the next big books? Because we have Dungeon Crawler Carl, we have He Who Fight with Sponsors, we have Wandering. It's all being published, and they're like, what's going to be the next one? And I know James is like, no. But I really would love to push for
absolutely
to be picked up by one of the big 5 publishers and
Yeah.
mainstream because I think it's worthy of that kind of attention. I think it's an awesome series, and James has written an incredible story with awesome characters. So the more you guys do these buddy reads, the more that you guys post videos and share your content about how much you love these stories, the more that's going to get attention by other people that have those abilities to make those decisions. So for James's sake, I don't make any more money. I've already been paid. I don't get any more for this. I'm doing this all for free now. I'm just doing this because I love James. I love this series.
Yeah, it's fun.
To do really well. So help me in pushing and promoting James and Discount Dan and becoming
you got it.
And the amazing thing that I think that it can be. So
you're a rock star, Steve. Thank you.
So much fun.
We love you both. We thank you so much to all those that have joined us tonight. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, James. Kristen, I appreciate you being my co-host.
Thanks. I appreciate you too, Wilkie. It's always a blast. Anytime.
Absolutely. So this has been Wilkie's World Wanderings in partnership with Ascension Protocol. Thank you for joining us tonight. Have a good night, y'all.
Night, y'all.
Bye. Thank you.